Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Wiltshire Creative Connects. My name is Tim Treslove and I am going to be talking to local artist and teacher and very good friend of mine, Sally Firino. Hope you enjoy our conversation. So straight away I'll go over and say hello to Sally. Hi Sal.
Hi Tim, how you doing?
Not bad, not bad. Coping along with everyone else. I'm going to try not to mention the L word at all during this, because I've seen a few interviews recently and I think we're all going through it. We all know what it's about, and it sort of seems like these should be more about talking about other things that are going on other than the kind of mundane stuff we have in our lives at the moment. So I think I'll just jump straight in. You're a local artist, you live locally, work locally, but you're not originally from Salisbury itself. What brought you to Salisbury?
So I was born in Southampton, and so I've got family dotted around this part of the world. I studied fine art at Cheltenham and Gloucester College of Higher Education, which is now Gloucester University, I believe. And when I then went on and did a teaching degree, and when I was looking for jobs following that, this job popped up at St Edmunds in Salisbury, and I wanted to find a place that was quite close to my granny who lived in Ringwood. So went for that job and got it, and that brought me to Salisbury. And here I've remained for however long that is.
However long.
With a little bit of travelling in between, as we'll hear about later on.
Yeah, sure. So teaching is what you sort of mentioned there, first of all, that brought you here, St Edmunds. Sal. Can you talk about a little bit about your teaching and what it is about teaching that you enjoy so much?
Yeah, teaching's my primary love. I love inspiring other people and creating that spark to be inspired. I work now at Burgate in Fordingbridge, a really lovely school in the middle of the New Forest. I've been there now for 16 years, I believe, and not planning to leave any day soon. I work with a really lovely group of people and really, really lovely children. And yeah, created an art department there that's thriving, and yeah, that's my passion really, is teaching others what I love.
Excellent. So where did that passion for art come from you originally? I mean, can you take us back to anything, any turning points or any points in your life that kind of really inspired you to become an artist and a teacher?
Well, I mentioned my grandmother before, and she taught me to draw horses quite early on. And my sister drew with me often, but I guess it was my art teacher, probably at A-levels, that made me really believe that possibly I could be good at it and I could take it on to the next step. So it was that teacher influence really that created that feeling that I could do something with art.
Okay. It's interesting, isn't it? Because the teaching thing's massive. From my own experience, I loved art when I was young and had a series of art teachers at schools that I won't mention in Salisbury that just destroyed that not the love of art at all, but certainly destroyed my confidence about it.
Yeah.
And most of that was to do with the fact that the art I wanted to do didn't conform to what the school wanted me to do. So my creativity was absolutely stifled at an early age, and I never managed to pick it up again.
I think a teacher can make or break someone in the art world. I think the second you tell a student that they are an artist and they're brilliant, or something that they've done is brilliant, then you've created an artist. It is a self-fulfilling prophecy. As soon as you tell someone that something's rubbish or not so good, it has that effect. It's something about the creative world of being an artist. Is if you're told you're an artist, then you become an artist. And I see it happen all the time with children. And sometimes they don't find, like you, that thing that they love yet. They might not have tried printmaking, or they might not have tried sculpture yet, and then suddenly it comes. And to see that happen is a wonderful thing, to suddenly realise they've found their thing within the arts that they are good at.
It's an incredible thing. Well, I had a great experience this week. My son had to look at some shading for part of his schoolwork, and we took him down to the Cathedral Close, and my wife and Joe, my son, and I all drew our own versions of the Henry Moore sculpture down there to try and get an idea of the shading. And when I first looked at it, I couldn't see where the shading was. I couldn't see the shadow. And then within about half an hour, my eyes sort of started to tune into what it was I needed to do. And that was incredible for me, because I haven't done an art lesson for 40 years, longer than that probably.
So the beauty of drawing and the beauty of any art lesson, as you're doing there, is observing, and you sit and you observe for just slightly longer than you would normally, something that you might just pass on by. And that is the beauty of drawing. To me, it's the sitting, and it is taking in the whole object or person or place, following my eyes around that place and recording my experience of that place. And I think that I try and think about drawing in comparison to other media, and I guess the only thing that is that instant is photography.
Right.
But photography is slightly more intrusive. Someone maybe doesn't mind someone sat there with a pencil drawing away in comparison to someone taking a photograph. And also that photography, it can be instant. So you're less observant of what you see in front of you, and you've got less of a relationship with the thing that you see in front of you. Of course, photography doesn't have to be instant. You can do a lot more than that. But I think that it is the drawing of a place or a thing or an object that makes me have that relationship with that thing and observe it closely. So the reason we teach drawing is we're teaching young people to observe the world around them. I'm sure that Joe saw more in that Henry Moore by sitting and drawing it than just walking past it.
Absolutely, yeah, of course, yeah. And that brings me on, I suppose, really to the specifics of your work and your process. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so when I was at St Edmunds, I felt like I was too young really to be a teacher at that time. I loved it, but felt that I needed to see the world more. And I found myself traveling. I spent some time in Ghana and Nepal and Italy, but it was in Ghana that I just had my sketchbook and a pencil and really wanted to capture what was around me, but again, without being intrusive. So I would draw without looking down at my page, and I'd draw people and places and things around me, but without looking down at the sketchbook, without making it obvious that I was recording. And I'd look down and often be surprised and pleased by what I'd recorded, this line. And that continued really. I came back to work in Salisbury. I did portrait painting and oil painting at university, and then took it up again later on. And I had a period where I was unwell, and I was having treatment for lymphoma. And I found that getting out the paints, putting away the paints, washing the brushes just seemed too much. So again, this pencil got picked up, this line work carried on. It was something so instant, quick, and so I just took on that drawing of the line again, and then that just seemed to stick really. After my treatment, I went away to Italy with the intention of possibly staying out there and doing more oil painting. I'd been accepted on this course at this academy in Florence, and thought it'd be really lovely to go out there and paint for a while. And I met a wonderful artist called Anita Klein. She's a printmaker working in London, and she basically told me that I was crazy for joining an academy that would train me very, very well in figurative painting, when I had something that was so fresh and clean and simple and pure. And she didn't want me to lose that. And she said, go back, go home, and just keep doing what you're doing. She did advise me to become an apprentice, and I became an apprentice printmaker for a little while before I returned to school. And I learned a lot about printmaking and really loved the feeling of creating a line and then making an etching or making a print from that line.
So, was Anita Klein teaching on the course that you were going to, or did you just bump into her? Or?
No, she was running. She works so she makes prints all the time, but she's got a flat in Italy, and she goes out there 1 week of every month to make her paintings, because she finds that the world now has just become all about social media and answering emails and the admin behind being an artist. So she goes out there for 1 week every month and paints. And yeah, it was really, it was that meeting of her. She, again, like I said to you about telling a child that they are an artist, she told me that I was an artist and told me to go away and do what I do. And it's that feeling that someone believes in you that is what you need in life. And she also bought one of my drawings of the street where she lives in Italy. And I know she really values that drawing. So that was, you know, that was a real boost to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And those moments, I think, are so important in everyone's life. I remember in my professional career, when I was an actor, I ended up singing quite a lot, and I was always told that I couldn't sing when I was at school. I wasn't, even in the nativity play, I was sent off as a shepherd to stay at home with the sheep rather than go and see the baby Jesus, because I didn't have a good enough voice, and I believed it. And I went to drama school, and then they told me I could sing, and I realised I could. And I remember seeing a man walking down the road with his little boy once, and the little boy was singing away, completely out of tune. And the man went, "Oh, will you shut up?" And my heart sank just to hear that, because those things stick. Yeah. And the converse of that was that I remember doing a youth theatre show when I was in Stage 65 at Salisbury Playhouse in 1970 something. And an actor called Roger Leach, who was a really well-known local actor, who was brilliant, who sadly passed away a few years ago now, but he came up to me after a production of Oklahoma, in which I played Judge Fry, and he took me aside and he said, "There were some great performances, but you were outstanding." And that stayed with me, well, to now. I can feel the tingle thinking about him saying that to me as a 14-year-old boy in Salisbury Playhouse, and it means, you know, so much. And talking of Salisbury again, Sal, I know a bit of this, I suppose, really, because I've got the gallery and the picture framing business, but what's Salisbury like for artists?
So Salisbury's a tricky one, really, for artists. It's not Frome or Totnes. It's working hard, and the artists within it work hard to try and make it a better place for the arts. It's got some great little spots and some places that have really supported me. Wiltshire Gallery with you, Fisherton Mill. I've always been really supportive, and I love those places. I love how they have a lack of snobbery. You can walk in there, you can be immersed in the arts. It doesn't matter if you know nothing at all about what is around you. You're accepted in those places and you can enjoy them. I love Fisherton Mill's working studios. I'd love to see more of that in Salisbury. I've spent some time talking to Merca and some others about creating makers spaces. That's what I'd love to see come in Salisbury. But Salisbury's brilliant for its vicinity to London, to go and see the galleries. We spend a lot of time out at Messham's in Tisbury, and also at Hauser and Worth at Bruton. I take lots of school trips to Roche Court, and obviously the Cathedral, with all of the sculptures that Jacqueline's bringing to Salisbury, is wonderful, especially now, you know, like you've just said, Henry Moore on our doorstep is fantastic at this time.
Yeah, absolutely. All of those in that Cathedral Close at the moment. I think I've been there more than anywhere else at the moment, actually, just to have a look again at the work that is on show there, which is of an incredible standard, and it's just there on our doorstep, which is, I think, brilliant.
I'd love to get inside and see the Grayson Perry inside the cathedral. I think that's wonderful, but I know that those works of art are staying now for hopefully for the year, so that we will get in and get our chance to see them.
Now, I've got a framed postcard of that Grayson Perry in the other room, actually. That postcard is about as far as it's got with mine.
Even just showing the Frink walking into town across our Close and the Hepworth in the cloisters. You know, it's these little bursts of art. I'd love to see more of it around the city, and I'd love there to be a greater accessibility for us to exhibit and have more independent shops and galleries and places where we can put our art.
Good, excellent. And so, talking about art, we talked a little bit about, you know, inspirations for you, but, you know, who, apart from your own work, we can see beautifully displayed behind yourself, what else has Sally Firino got on her walls?
So I love, as I've talked about before, I love Anita Klein's work. I love that she, although she's now well known in the art world and people buy her work all the time, she still is still capturing just the moments between her family. You know, we see Nige, her husband, opening his cereal packet at the dinner table in her work. We see her grandchildren now learning to draw, or, you know, really simple, everyday, happy activities that are part of her life. And she still continues to draw those things. I really admire that. I admire Grayson Perry, especially at the moment, for his observations of daily life, observing the little things, the funny things. I love his sense of humour. I love that at the moment he's doing a programme, an art club programme, and he is really showing that anybody can be an artist and anybody can find their way in art. And that's something I really admire, that he's got on the TV, and he's done that at this time, so that hopefully lots of people are out there crafting, making, drawing, painting, and it doesn't matter what you make, there's value in it.
Yeah, excellent. So just thinking about, I just wanted to go back a little bit, because you spoke a bit about your process, but I've always sort of wanted to know, I mean, do you set yourself rules for that? You've got your own rules, that whereas you can or cannot do certain things when you're creating a piece of work, or is that all just fluid?
So it is fluid. My rule is that I do look at the object far more than I look at my paper, and sometimes I don't look at the paper at all. But it's really easy to get caught up in that and not continue doing that, for the want of accuracy, for the want of creating a better drawing. And then you find you're drawing something really hard and you think, hang on, what? Just let's go back to it. Let's just go back to just looking at the object and not looking at the paper. And every time I do that, I get a better result, or a result that I'm happier with. I love that my drawings are not complete. I prefer work early on, and it's finding that time to stop. And it's the same with the children that I teach. It's the same with anybody. We could take every drawing on to be a painting, but what's wrong with stopping with it being a drawing? So it's trying to find that place to stop. And I'm thinking about this interview and thinking about other things. The work is always, it could always continue, and it's always kind of in motion. And there is no end, there's no closure to a piece. And I wonder if I think more deeply about it, if that is because these are moments of my life, these are recordings, these are creating a trace, creating something for the future, a track really, a mark or a track, as drawing always has been, of a life. And maybe I don't want that closure, I want it to be able to continue. A good friend of mine said to me that my drawings were like a scaffold, a way that other people could imagine their own colours, imagine their own experience or their own place or their own person upon those lines. And I love that. And I think because, again, my whole love for being an artist is to inspire and create that spark for the imagination. If my drawings can do that too, then that's even better.
Lovely, thank you. Obviously, you've talked a lot about your passion for teaching. How are you finding not going to school?
Yes, I'm finding it quite up and down really. But some days it's brilliant. I I've created a website for the students that I work with, and I'm putting daily challenges onto that website. I'm doing a lot of creating with my own son. I've created a sketchbook full of colour, lots and lots of paintings, and I am making postcards, mini pieces of artwork that I drop around to my friends' houses once a week. Go for a cycle ride, get our daily exercise and drop off art. So there is a little art delivery once a week going out to people. I continue to create sketchbooks. I have sketchbooks full of drawings, and yeah, I'm just keeping my daily record of drawing going, drawing a day. What I've found that I've started to do in my own work is really appreciate even more the little things. I've just created a series called Simple Pleasures or Simple Things, and I love just a cup of coffee, a drawing of a cup of coffee in the morning, so it just takes it all back down to that mundane, or finding the beauty in the mundane, finding the beauty in simplicity.
Simplicity, and that's the watchword in a way, isn't it? I mean, again, my only connection with that is from my career as an actor, and I know that I remember watching an actor early on in my career who seemed to do very little, but did it all so brilliantly. I think I spent all my sort of 25 years as an actor trying to get to that point of simplicity, the less is more, if you like, approach. I don't know if I ever got it, once or twice maybe, but my face always used to do far too much, which is why I never got any telework. But is that is your work still developing in that way?
Yeah, I think less is more, and I've always thought so, but I don't think I've got there quite yet. I'm striving for purity and a flow, but also a strong confidence of flow. I love it that there is no rubbing out. It's so direct. It is just the experience, and what you see is the experience of drawing. You don't see any corrections. I wear my mistakes on my sleeve. There is that a rubber is never used, and I'm still striving to create less marks in a more confident way, if that's possible.
Right. And I mean, obviously for all artists, there is the issue about making it pay for you, making a living. You're a teacher as well, and so that helps to subsidise your income. Is that something that you think is possible for many, particularly in Salisbury, to actually make a living from art?
Yeah, I believe it is possible to make a living from art, and I strongly push that with the students that I teach. The difficulty of being an artist is not only to sit in an open space and draw, as I do, but also to be brave enough to exhibit and get your work on a wall. You know that once it's on a wall, half the people won't like it and half the people will like it, and some people will say, it's just a line. How can you charge that much for a line? But it's about trying to create a little bit of thick skin and being brave. And yes, I absolutely believe it's achievable to make a living out of being an artist.
You've kind of gone straight on to the question I was going to ask you, which was about how to deal with criticism, how to deal with people that maybe don't understand your work. And obviously you mentioned thick skin. Do you have any other methods of dealing with that, or is there a secret to it?
I think the only thing you can do is to carry on doing what you're doing. You're not doing it to sell. My work is a diary of my life. I draw things I see, my family, my friends around me, little moments, little things. None of that is drawn to go on a gallery wall or to be sold. Of course, I'm asked to do commissions, but I think the second that you start to create just to sell is the second that you would really be worried if you got criticism or didn't sell.
Well, but to that end, it's worth mentioning to anyone watching that there will be a selection of Sally Firino's work in my shop window in Fisherton Street, and which you can't buy at the moment, so you wouldn't be able to sell it at the moment anyway. But hopefully in June, if I'm allowed to open, there will be plenty of Sally's work on sale at the Wiltshire Gallery in Fisherton Street. But what I'm going to do, I've already got one piece in the window, Sally. What I'm going to do is put some more of your work in the window, so that anyone who is watching this, if they are out on their exercise, which they can do as much as they like now, are wondering, go and have a look in Fisherton Street. I'll make both windows over to your work for a while, so that people can have a good look. People that don't know your work, that may be watching this. So, Sally, we talked a little bit about the other artists that have influenced you, and we talked a bit about Salisbury. So, combining those, are there places and things around Salisbury, or objects and things? What are you inspired by around here?
So probably one of the best sellers is the print of the town path. I'm lucky enough to live at one end of the town path in Harnham, so we do that walk into town probably a few times a day, and see the sheep in the water meadows, just in front of the cathedral. And we've done that town path, ever since we've lived here, but since my little boy has been growing up, we've spotted wrens and kingfishers and water voles, and obviously the sheep. There used to be a llama in the field. It's all these things that we see in our day-to-day life that inspires us, the beauty of daily life, really. And we're lucky enough in Salisbury that it's a city, but it's surrounded by countryside. So town path is featured heavily. The geese flying over is just one of those brilliant experiences where you just hear them before you see them. And my little boy will shout, "Mama, geese," and we run to the windows and drawing those. As well as Salisbury, the beauty of being a teacher obviously is the holidays. We spend a lot of our time in Italy, and Italy is just ripe with inspiration for an artist, from mopeds, buildings, just chairs, views. It just doesn't stop, and I love our visits to Italy and France. My sketchbooks are full of people in bars and restaurants, and again, it's we talked before about this way of recording, but without being intrusive in the scene. And it's just wonderful to have a sketchbook in your hand and to be drawing that moment when you're sat in the bar and see a French man sat in the corner drinking his pint. And it's those little simple things in life that I just want to draw all the time, and I can't stop myself from drawing. I don't feel well or brilliant if I haven't done a drawing that day.
That's wonderful. That's great. That's lovely. And that's also, it's about the universality of it, isn't it? Because that's something that we all recognise, that we all appreciate. And that, like you were talking about, Anita Klein's work, and that idea that it, they might be the mundane things, but it's actually what we all have in common.
I think as well, having a little one helps. I've throughout his life, I've made drawings that I've then converted into things to help him learn. So I have alphabet art, I have numbers. Just this week we've done birds of prey, line drawings of birds of prey, and he guesses the birds of prey, the birds you see in your garden. Having a little one around makes you see the world again with fresh eyes. And I think he is a constant inspiration. Not only do I draw him over and over again, but I draw things to help him or to support him. And for example, I did an etching of a cow. I'll see if I've got it here. And that etching of a cow, I don't know if you can see it.
You can only see me reflected in it.
That etching of a cow then appears in prints where children can learn numbers or their alphabet. So I think having a little one around really helps to create moments. And also, of course, he is constantly drawing. He's constantly making up stories, and then he asks me to illustrate the stories. So there is always scope for something to be drawn.
thank you very much, Sally Firino, for that. And thank you, everybody, for watching. And hope to see you at one of the other interviews later in the series. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.